Hey, what's going on guys? Ben Brewster here at Trade Athletics, and this video is all about what can we do to immediately become a better pitcher. Now, there's a million ways we could take this video, but specifically, I wanted to give you something that if you start implementing this over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you can have a noticeable change in the quality of your bullpens, the quality of your outings, and complement what you're already doing in the weight room, what you're already doing with some of your throwing specific training. So that is, and again, it's not that sexy of an answer, but it's having and sticking to a pre-pitch routine. So what exactly are we talking about when we talk about the pre-pitch routine? We're specifically talking about what exactly is going on in that 10 to 20 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds between after you've thrown the previous pitch and before you deliver that next pitch. So what exactly is going on, not just physically, as far as where you're standing, when you're getting the sign, etc., but what's actually going on mentally? What is the mental process that's actually happening? And for a lot of pitchers, again, they just get the ball, go back on the rubber, take the sign, throw the ball. And there's not really a process beyond that. There's not really something that's giving them any sort of real consistency beyond just kind of going out, playing, and then kind of letting the game situation really dictate their emotional state. So most of us have heard of pre-pitch routines. We've maybe dabbled in routines depending on the level that you're at. But even if you have heard of it, you've worked on it, you've read some articles, watched some videos about it, how many of you actually stick to a routine, practice it on a regular basis? Or the answer is not a ton of you, right? Because we've actually put out information online where we've polled people, we've asked, what percentage of you guys are actually practicing the mental routine on a daily basis? And more than 50% of respondents said they're not practicing it at all. So this is a huge gap between all this focus that people place on the velocity side of things, the strength training side of things, and being able to bridge that gap to the actual in-game performance side of things, because the arsenal is certainly a huge predictor of how well your stuff is going to play. But then it's also how well do you actually utilize that arsenal? Can you execute pitches under pressure? Can you execute pitches, when you have given up that, bases loaded double? Can you refocus for the next guy? When you have walked the leadoff batter, when you are in, unfamiliar territory, when you're in a playoff game, when it's bases loaded, full count, right? That's really when it matters, and that's where the mental game really shines. So not a ton of research on pre-pitch routines in baseball, but the closest thing that there is a lot of research on is actually free throw shooting. And so a couple of studies we can highlight here. One looked at NBA free throw shooting, and they looked at players that, again, all these players have a routine, right? It's not that, it's once you have a routine, how well do you actually stick to that dominant routine? How well do you actually repeat it? And they found that when players deviated from their dominant routine, there was a 12% drop in free throw shooting accuracy. So again, all these players already had a routine, and you might not have any routine, but once you have a routine, it's how well do you actually repeat that? Another study looked at free throw shooting, and they saw that after implementing free throw routine practice, after actually practicing it, there was a 6% improvement in practice free throw shot percentage, and then under pressure, a 23% improvement in free throw shooting percentage. So there seems to be some effect of actually having a process here, right? It might help a little bit in bullpens. It might help a little bit when there's nothing on the line, when there's no pressure, but then actually going into competition, the heat of competition, especially in these high leverage situations, that's really when routines seem to shine the most. Realistically, my experience, our coaching experience, what can you expect? Right, it completely depends on the guy, it depends on the level, it depends on what experience you have already, what type of process you have. But 5 to 10% improvement in strike percentage, especially when it counts, that's a pretty realistic goal. If you're a 50% strike guy, a 45% strike guy, getting to 55%, 60%, that's entirely realistic, and that can happen in a very short time window if you begin to implement some of these pre-throw routines, some of these other concepts that we talk about from the mental training side. So how big of a deal is that? Obviously, changing a at-bat from a 1-1 count to either a 2-1 or a 1-2 count, that can have a massive implication for the outcome of that at-bat. But then you extrapolate that over the course of a game, right? Most games are decided, most outings really are decided based on a few pitches here and there, the outcome of a few at-bats. So over the course of a season, over the course of an outing, right, this can have huge implications into your overall performance. Is a 5-10% swing one way or another in terms of strike percentage. So again, routines are really important when it comes to learning to execute and stay dialed in, especially under pressure. When we kind of more broadly look at this idea of pitchability, right, it's obviously multivariable, but when it comes to all the different strategies, which we'll touch on at the end of this video, routines are probably that lowest hanging fruit. It's like, if you can only do that one thing to get this guy from 40% strikes to 55% strikes, what would you do? let's give him some sort of process. Let's give him some sort of pre-pitch routine. Again, what is he doing from second 0 to second 15 when he releases that pitch, so that he can have some sort of consistency. And we'll talk now about the actual mechanism behind why routines seem to work so well. So if you look at the mechanism, I like to use this analogy of routines as an anchor. So in this analogy, your mind is like a ship at sea, and it's being like tossed and turned by the waves, right? The waves are essentially all the different changing variables of the game. It's the changing environment over the course of a game. This could be intrusive thoughts, this could be anxiety, this could be fear, this could be doubts, or this could be more tangible things like the fans cheering, for an opposing team. This could be, base runners. This could be an umpire makes a bad call. This could be the game score. Hey, the season's on the line. Like, this could be all sorts of different intrusive thoughts, game situation, environment. Your routine acts as this constant. It's this anchor that no matter what's happening over the course of a game, trying to jerk your mind around, your attention around, it allows you to come back to this one thing that's constant every single time. We always go back to this rubber 60 feet, 6 inches away from home plate. We always have this exact same process that we can go through to give us some sort of sense of normalcy, some sort of consistency in this ever-changing environment. So the scientific kind of answer as to why routines work is it seems to give you something to focus on. So a routine directs attention away from irrelevant stimuli, right? These are all the irrelevant stimuli, and avoid conscious processing. So it's something for you to focus on specifically so that you're not focusing on these other potential distractions. Again, sense of normalcy in a new environment. So we're playing at a brand new team at a new stadium with different fans and a new situation that you maybe haven't encountered before. Maybe you're coming out of the bullpen, bases loaded situation, right? It's something that you can always turn to no matter what else is going on. It also maximizes the chance that we're able to enter that zone or that flow state, or when everything seems to click in, you're not really thinking, right? It just feels easy, right? That's the zone, the flow state. We've all been there. We can all think back to some of our very best outings as a pitcher when we were in that state. So it maximizes the chance that we can actually get into that state because we're, again, not focusing on these other distracting, irrelevant stimuli. Steve Nash, obviously one of the better free throw shooters of all time, said, when he was asked about routines, a routine enables you to not think about winning or losing the game. The focus is on the routine and not the enormity of the situation. Right, so just another way of phrasing that and why routines really are such a powerful tool if you aren't fully leveraging them in your current training. Again, the idea here is that your routine is something that's unique to you. No matter who we're talking about here, right, there's going to be differences in those routines. It's going to have to be comfortable, it's going to have to be repeatable, and then it's going to have to be adaptable. It's going to evolve over time as you learn different things about yourself. Maybe it's going to be slightly different out of the stretch versus out of the windup. Maybe you're able to adapt it, change it a little bit if one side of the rubber is dug out on a certain day. Maybe you have to adapt it, change it up, depending on the team that you're playing. But it's something that's comfortable, repeatable, and unique to you. So how do we actually work on building our own pre-pitch routines and customizing that to ourselves? Well, we've actually answered this for you in a mental skills course that we're really excited to release and we've been working on for the last 7 or 8 months. But essentially, we've broken down the process into 5 parts. There's the observe phase, the flush phase, the intention phase, the focal point phase, and the attack phase. And then also from the implementation phase, we talk about what we call pre-pitch constants, and then we have a whole daily practice progression as well that we'll talk about. The course itself is about 3 to 4 hours of content. So there's 9 modules, about 30 plus lessons. And within that, we go over a ton of different information. So not only how to build a pre-pitch routine and customize that for yourself, but we talk about your pre-game routine. We talk about the in-game routine, your reliever routine. We talk about how to flush bad outings, how to flush bad pitches. We talk about setting proper goals, how to overcome anxiety, confidence issues, a ton of different tools that we go through there. Alter ego, affirmations, different breathing techniques, and other tools that you can implement right away. We have a ton of worksheets that you can go through as you're actually working your way through those different modules. And then for coaches watching, again, those worksheets are different exercises that you can actually print out and give to your team and have them go through, and then go through and actually work with each athlete individually on their responses and see where their weak points are from a mental training standpoint. There's a personality profile where you can really understand what mental state do you pitch best at and how do you specifically get in that state before every outing. And then finally, the most important piece is a 28-day mental training program that progresses you all the way from some very basic breathing exercises to more advanced sport-specific visualization exercises. So again, just to finish out, we've all heard this quote that baseball is 90% mental. The other half is physical, right? And while Yogi Berra maybe wasn't too good at math, I think we can all agree that he really was onto something in terms of the importance of the mental game. We all seem to understand that intuitively, but how many of us actually practice that on a daily basis? The responses on social media were less than half. We're trying to change that, not just with our athletes, but releasing that same information to you guys. If you're interested in the course, go ahead, check the description down below for more information on that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.